So this is my developmental autobiography presentation, and one of the themes that were in my paper were industry versus inferiority, which is when a person is feeling low self-esteem and want to be and lonely and just feel low altogether and just want to be acknowledged by the person that they love or is dear to them, like a brother to a sister or like mother-daughter, father-daughter, mother-son. And a person feel that many times in their life. And one of the times that it was for me was when I went into middle school because it was a whole new different middle school, and it was like in a different district from my elementary school too. And my best friend from elementary school didn't go with in that same middle school as me. She went to the middle school that I wanted to go, and that everyone was going from my elementary school. But my parents were like, "No, let's go. You should go to a better middle school." So I went I went into that middle school, and I didn't know anyone, and everyone knew each other because they came in from elementary school, so everyone knew each other. And I was feeling very lonely because I'm not the person who makes friends easily. I'm very socially awkward. So it took me a while to make friends. And this was the same in high school too, but it wasn't as bad as it was in middle school because I was kind of used to like the environment, because middle school and high school are mostly the same environment at times. And another time I felt this was in COVID, because like I would talk to my friends. Yeah, it was on camera and stuff, but it would not be the same as it was like talking to them in person and like hanging out just like for like food and stuff. So, and I felt very like trapped in my head, in my mind too, not just like physically because we were at home the whole time, but in my mind too, because I was going through a lot at that time, not just because of COVID, because of mentally. And and I got diagnosed with an eating disorder later too during COVID. So it was like all over the place. I was feeling very low self-esteem, and I just wanted to be like held by someone who was dear to me, like my favorite cousin, but she lived far away, or even just like my friends, but we couldn't even like see each other because we could see each other like virtually, but we couldn't like hang out and stuff, like I said before. And that leads me into talking about my next theme, which is cultural socialization. And that is when parents or guardians teach their kids about their culture, like what language they speak, um their holidays and everything, stuff like that. Anything that relates to their culture, they teach. The books that they read and stuff, everything like that. And that came into factor when I went to high school, because my high school was split into two with the STEM side, like science, technology, engineering, mathematics, and art side. Sorry. And so so when I went to my high school, um so people thought, oh, she wears hijab, so she must be smart and stuff. Oh, and she's in the STEM side. I was going the STEM side because I had no idea what I was doing. And I just like applied because my parents said, oh, yeah, this is a good high school. And I wanted to get out of my old middle school because I did not like I missed my friend, but she went into another high school too. We tried to go to the same high school, but we got into different high schools. So this was the friend that I made in middle school. And so when I went to my high school, all the STEM kids were like, "Oh, you must be smart because you're Muslim." And so my parents and the STEM majors were a lot like some of them were like Muslims too, not a lot, some of them. So people were like, "Oh yeah, you must be friends with them." And I was like, "No." And like when we like got grouped with each other like in a class, like anonymously, like the teacher picked it, and so people were like, oh yeah, you must be friends and stuff and everything. That's not true. That's not true at all. You don't have to be friends with someone because they're the same culture as you, because you should be friends with the same person who shares the same interest as you. So my parents thought, oh, like there are a lot of like Muslims in the STEM majors, in, in the STEM major area, so you should be friends with them, and like you'll be easily friends with them and everything. And I was like, I already wear a hijab. Isn't that enough? I don't want to be friends with these kids. I want to be friends with who I want to be friends with. And so most of my friends, like, I got through like, no, not I got through, but some of the friends I made through were like the regular classes, not the STEM classes. Like, the STEM classes were engineering and computer science. So like I made friends through the regular classes, like so they were combined with the art kids and the STEM kids. That's what I'm trying to say. And so most of my friends were art kids, but it didn't seem like we were STEM and art majors. It was only when we felt we were STEM and art majors when we had to go to our like the classes that were required for our major. So I was a biotech major, and my friends were like visual arts and theater. So it only felt like that when we had to go to our retrospective classes. But in like other classes, we just felt like ourselves. Like me and my art friends, art major friends, or my friends, um, we all had the same interest, and I didn't feel like pressured by them or anything. And we had like the same hobbies too and stuff. And so what I'm trying to say is like a person shouldn't feel pressured by their culture to just do that thing. They should do whatever they want, is what my point is. Because doesn't because the culture, because the pressure from parents and culture itself can be very endearing. And not just because of the parents or the culture, just because of the environment too. Like I said, people are like, oh, you're the STEM side, you must be smart. That's not true. I was failing most of the time. And it took, but with the right guidance, like I remember one of the teachers were very nice to help us. Like I remember it was like after school, like where you could like not like where you could get together and figure out like the math problems, and you can talk with the English teachers too, which was very helpful. And I feel like those two, three teachers were like the reason why I passed ninth grade. But what I'm trying to say is that you shouldn't budge into cultural pressure or an environment's pressure. You should do what you want to do. And that leads me into talking about another theme about my paper that was in my paper was body image, because in high school everyone can have low self-esteem, and everyone is like consciously aware about their body and like how they look, and like they compare themselves to others. I did the same thing, and like got progressively worse in 10th grade because I was like, oh, with the exercise and the food that I'm eating, I'm not losing weight. So what I would do is uh portionize my food and make it less and less, and I would like be hungry, but I would be like, no, I want to lose weight. And that came into fact, that got worse and worse, where to a point I would just eat dinner, and that would be only a little too by the time COVID was around. So, I went to the doctor just for like a checkup, and they diagnosed me with anorexia nervosa, which is an eating disorder, which is basically like starving yourself. And that was very hard for me, I have to say, obviously, because I had to get back on track with my eating schedule, not schedule, but like eating habits like I had before. I was like mentally like not before I was like mentally like thinking, oh yeah, my body is not the way I want it. And so what I'm trying to say is one of the important factors you should look into and like students should think about is their body image and how that can not only affect your physical health, but your mental health too. And you should appreciate your body because it's there for you because it's there for you, honestly. And so the next thing I'm talking about is one of like the most like important things I have to say I learned in this class is Pigot's theory of cognitive development. And the four stages are sensor motor, um, formal, operational, pre-operational, and concrete operational. And they all basically talk about how a kid from like they were from a kid that's like born to uh their adulthood, how from each level they grow and grow and grow from like them to get from like baby version when they're babies, they like learn about their sensory things like their hearing and like how they touch the how everything feels, like the blocks that they play with or toys that they play with, to learning new things, to questioning things, to think and to like think abstractly. And I feel like that's important because it does not only like talk about like, oh yeah, like the stuff that we learn about in school, but it also makes us appreciate or like think about how that is important to our mental health and our physical health. Like I was talking about the body image stuff, because that's like important for your health in like overall. And what surprised me the most of like this whole like in the whole class, in the whole class that we learned, like the things that we were learning, one of the things that surprised me the most were how in the womb baby like get cognitive some type of cognitive development at 25 weeks. And that shocked me because I thought like kids, oh yeah, they like get towards the end when they're like about to like be born. So I was like completely shocked. And what I also learned that surprised me is how the baby thinks it's the same part of their mother. So they think that the mother is the same as them and the baby is the same as their mother. And that like factors into like their first few weeks of their life. So I was like shocked about that because that explains why like they need their mother the most when they're born. So, yeah, and that concludes my presentation.